delighted to introduce our first speaker, Yofi Grant, who is the most important thing about him is not what I'm about to tell you, but that he is a Chelsea fan as well. He's a renowned Ghanaian investment banker with over 30 years of extensive work experience in banking and finance, and is a council member of the Continental Business Network of the African Union, and was also special advisor to the Minister for Private Sector Development in 2002 to 2006, and has said that Ghana is the best place to do business in Africa. So, what better ambassador to talk about Ghana's potential than you, Yofi? I'm delighted to give you the floor.
Thank you very much.
A West African giant, Ghana. Stable, prosperous, and leading as one of the best places to do business in Africa. When I think about Ghana, I think about the potential, vast opportunities, ready to be tapped. Ghana is rated as one of the top 5 priority investment locations in Africa. We are not standing still. We keep moving, growing in construction, transport, infrastructure development, and financial services. With a communications and internet infrastructure that is backed by fiber optic backbone. The business climate is attractive, continuously improving. Think about the possibilities of private capital and public resources coming together in a safe environment, catalyzing growth and development. You can be assured of a judicial system that upholds the rule of law. As one investor has said, Ghana is Africa for beginners. It's the best place to get a taste of Africa. It's not difficult. The opportunities are endless in power generation, manufacturing, agro-processing. The services, industry, and agricultural sectors are the leading drivers of growth in Ghana's economy. The Ghanaian workforce is highly skilled and easily trainable. Because of its largely youthful and energetic population, education is a thriving service sector that is seeing immense growth and excellent return on investment. The West African sub-region is home to over 300 million people and growing. That's the market size to think about. The rise of a more affluent middle class and demand for products and services make it a region not to be ignored. It's a great place to live, to invest, and make things happen. There are rewards for those that participate, and many can attest to that. Our values resonate globally. We value hospitality, service, stewardship. Africa is certainly the next frontier. What are you waiting for? Let Ghana guide you in. This land is rich, rich with potential and resources. And the people are lovely, really friendly. I can't think of a better place.
This is the Ghana on the go. It's a new Ghana, maybe a little bit more different from what you've seen before. I think it's an aggressive Ghana, ready to engage, and we are here, open for business. That's the main thing, and it's a Ghana on the go. I'll just quickly go through this presentation, which sort of gives you a sneak preview of what Ghana, the opportunities that are in Ghana today. And I'll tell you something very funny though. Whilst we were in China, I had to do a similar presentation. And it was supposed to be for 5 minutes, but it ended up being 20 minutes because I had to say everything slowly, and then an interpreter, say it in Mandarin. And at times it got pretty funny because I wasn't sure whether they were saying the right things because I don't speak Mandarin. But what I can tell you is at the end of the day, we were able to sign MOUs to the tune of $15 billion. So I guess that the interpreter must have added some special bites to it. But unfortunately, I have to do this all by myself here. But really, we are positioning to be the real investment destination in Africa. I mean, Ghana has always been the sort of spearhead of African political and now economic renaissance. And so we rightly want to take that position. And we believe that we are competitively set to do that. As the senior minister said before, we are in the center of the world and we are in the center of West Africa. So the big question you probably ask is, why Ghana? Three things. First of all, Ghana is a beacon of hope in West Africa and Africa, because we are probably, our democratic credentials are impeccable compared to the other countries on the continent. We are a very peaceful country, and as I always say to people, I mean, we are cool people. Ghanaians are cool people, and Ghana is a cool country to be in, despite the temperatures sometimes get to 36 degrees. We are still a very cool country. And we are a country on the move and a country on the go with a new government. The president clearly stated that we have to be the best place to do business in Africa. And so we are really aggressively pursuing that objective. But also, why Ghana? Because Ghana is also repositioning as the beachhead into West Africa. A population with a minimum of 350 million, depending on which day you count. Because in Nigeria, it's anything from between 170 to 180 million. It's a population with very interesting demography. Over 60% of the population is less than the age of 35. It's also a region with an average GDP growth projected at 5% per annum over the next 5 years. So it's a growth potential with a growing population, great market potential. And Ghana is repositioning to be in that space, to be the beachhead into that region. I'll quickly go through this presentation. And as you see a map over there. Now, what that map presents is a real opportunity. And we've mapped all the opportunities in Ghana on the map. So when you receive the presentation, for those who are very interested, you can actually scroll through and you see in every corner what opportunity there is. It makes it easier. But we also do agree that we need to do a lot of significant reforms to make us the real deal, to make us the real business destination. So we are currently engaged in very significant reforms, and we do that also comparing ourselves to our peers and where we want to be. And so on the comparator economies, which the UK is at the top, all I'll say is watch out. In the next 5 to 10 years, believe it or not, we will be right by your side at that top level. And it's not a promise, it's a plan. And we are really going ahead to execute that plan. In Africa, Ernst & Young, or now EY, has indicated that Ghana is the fourth most attractive country in West Africa. In West Africa, we are number one. But we think that is not good enough. So we are actually repositioning and reforming so that we are the best place, we are truly the best place to do business in Africa. And we already have certain, selling points which have been highlighted before, so I'll not go through them again. We are a very stable democracy. We are a bunch of very happy people, sometimes too happy for speedy stuff. And I will tell you a little joke, and I'm sure many of you have heard it before. So this story is told about a guy who came from the US, came to Ghana and decided to take a stroll on the beach. And so he found this aging man under a coconut tree with a hat on his head, sleeping. So he went there, the guy took the hat off, and he said, hello. He said, hello. He says, what do you do? He says, I'm a fisherman. He says, are you a fisherman? What are you doing resting here? He says, well, I'm just resting. He And the fisherman asks, what should I be doing? He says, oh, by now you should be on the sea, catching more fish. And when you catch more fish, you can buy a lot more boats. The fisherman says, then what else? Oh, if there are a lot more boats, you get a lot more fish, you can start processing the fish and make a lot of money for your children, for your community. He says, then what else? He says, oh yes, then you have a whole economy, and then after that, then you can rest. The guy looked at it and said, but I'm doing that now. Why do I have to go through that whole process? That's Ghana for you. But I think we are still a model for stability in Africa, and that makes us attractive as a business destination. Because in all my years in investment banking, two things were always important for the investor. Is there stability? Is there peace? Once those things are there, the investor is willing to take the bet and get in there and manage the other factors in there. We have had challenges in the past, and one of our challenges has been GDP growth. And last year, we had the lowest GDP growth in 20 years, where the economy grew by only 3.6%. But the new government is aggressively pursuing a change in that, and we are projecting a growth of 6.3% this year, moving on to an average of 7.5% for the next 5 years. Additionally, we've had to tackle strong macroeconomic indicators, and inflation has been one. Inflation has been pretty high in Ghana, so the government and the Minister of Finance, who used to be my business partner, by the way, is working very hard to bring down inflation and interest rates, because the cost of capital has always been very high in Ghana. Interestingly, in 6 months, we've been able to bring down the rates significantly. I traveled out of Ghana 1 week. By the time I came back, the medium-term treasury bill rates had dropped from 26% to 13%. And for me, that was very significant. So we seem to be doing the right things, and we're in the right direction. Our foreign reserves are much safer and cleaner now. We retain at least 4 billion, which represents more than 3.5 times interest cover. So we believe that the currency is going to hold, and we'll see some stability in the currency. Our economy has been predicated on the export of raw materials and resources in the longest term, with gold and cocoa being the biggest contributors. But services growth in the economy has overtaken a lot of the other sectors in the economy. So we believe that we are now an open economy, providing opportunity not only in the export of resources, but in other productive economies. And this slide gives a little glimpse of what there is in the economy in terms of the contribution of agriculture, transport, mining, construction, the retail sector, and manufacturing. I'll quickly go through. I've already spoken about this. That's GDP growth, and we're expecting GDP growth to move from the 3.6 this year to 6.3 at the end of this year. This just shows the breakdown of the economy and our export revenues. And I've spoken about that. I have spoken about this already. The interesting dynamic in West Africa, and particularly Ghana, is that by 2025, we will have 60% of the population living in urban areas. And for us, that is a great indicator of consumption power, potential consumption power we are going to see. And we also have a very interesting age dynamic where, just like in West Africa, 55% of our population is less than 30 years old. And so, at a growth rate of 2%, we are expecting that we'll have a big enough market that should attract investors. The government is committed. Many of us now in government were from private sector, so we understand the issues. We believe we have the solutions, and we do have the plans that we are executing. So as we speak, we are speaking because we are very clear on the objectives and how to achieve them. The Ministry of Finance has embarked on an aggressive macroeconomic program of stabilizing the economy. And we are seeing that happen. There are significant reforms in the tax administration to remove the front load and cost to doing business to many businesses, and making sure that we allow you to generate your profits so we can tax you at the end. And so most of what is happening in our tax reform and incentive reform is to remove the front load cost of doing business and investing, giving you the space to do your business, make your money, and then we appropriately take our pound of flesh or tax. I would believe that's a better way of doing business than putting cost up front. We are also simplifying the ease of doing business. And currently, Ghana is number 108 out of 190, as was indicated in 2016. We are looking to jump 50 points up by significant reforms in the market, and we are already seeing signs of it through reforms at the port, reforms in taxation. With GIPC, we are looking at doing the one-stop shop for registration of businesses to have a faster time to market. We are also looking at helping government drive down interest cost, and like I mentioned before, we've seen that happening. And also assisting the Ministry of Finance align budgets to priorities and force fiscal discipline through law with the Financial Administrations Act. As I mentioned yesterday to some of the people I met, and now I've been tasked with being Ghana's Chief Marketing Officer. And I have to be traveling all over the place. Indeed, over the past 3 weeks, I've crossed 5 time zones, from LA to DC, to Beijing, Shanghai, London, and I'm here. And I was telling one of my friends that, because of the new Financial Administrations Act, I really need to be careful. And that's why. He says, because if I spend more than my budget, I can go to jail. Which is the law. So now that I'm in London, I need to keep checking. Have I exceeded my budget? If I have, then I would implore the railway minister to extend railway to England, or I'll have to be walking back home very soon. So we are clear on our objectives. Now, power, electricity has been a major issue over the past years, and therefore has been a stumbling block in our industrial development. Now, why is it so important? The government clearly has indicated that the direction of the Ghanaian economy is to move away from a factor-driven economy where we only export raw materials and resources into one of value-added and processing. And I'm sure you've heard that we came out with a flagship policy called the One District, One Factory, which plans that there must be a factory or productive enterprise in every one of the 216 districts. But to do that, we need stable, reliable, and cheap power. And so we have also aggressively engaged in reforming the power sector to provide that. I did say that West Africa was really the bigger opportunity for any investor coming to Ghana. And we want to position Ghana as the beachhead into West Africa and ECOWAS, which provides a free trade zone. For if you want to do business in Nigeria, even the Nigerians agree that you have to come through Ghana because it's a better, safer, more stable place to do that. So I've just highlighted some of the countries in West Africa and what they're doing. And giving you a bit of the demographics of West Africa, that might interest you a little bit more. Now, I try not to get people to keep their eyes on the slides too much, because then they'll ask more questions. So I just show you a little bit tonight and I move on. But in the medium term, we believe that Ghana, taking indicators from the World Bank and the IMF, that Ghana will really be the country to watch in Africa. And so I show some comparables here. And the projections is that Ghana's GDP should definitely exceed 8% on the average in the medium to long term. Now, on the West Africa opportunity, we are doing reforms that will position Ghana, firstly, as the logistics hub for West Africa, secondly, as the financial hub for West Africa, thirdly, the manufacturing hub for West Africa, and fourthly, the tourism hub for West Africa. Now, we will not do all things, but the things that we will do them right, and we'll do them very well. Now, I'll just quickly rifle you through some of the opportunities that we have in the market. This is just to show what we are doing in terms of reforms to position us attractively. But the more important thing is what is the opportunity and why should you invest in Ghana? I have mentioned our consistent and impeccable democratic credentials. I have said that we are a peaceful, stable country. We are cool people. We are also geographically well positioned in the center of the world. And interestingly, Ghana is one of those countries that has taken lead in the technology space in Africa. And therefore, it's also going to be one of the great economic drivers. Our priority sectors for investments is energy, where we are looking for investors in the distribution network, generation in the renewable and sustainable energy space, and in oil and gas. And in infrastructure, we are looking at integrated and transformative transportation. And the senior minister indicated what we're doing with railways. But we are going to blend railways with road networks, waterways, and airports. So we are looking at a new airport in Accra that will have a throughput of a minimum of 20 million people to serve the sub-region, because we want to be a transportation hub as well. We are looking to build more schools to create more opportunity for our people, and more hospitals to look after them when they work too hard. We are also focusing on agro-processing to add value to our raw materials. Mechanical, go from what has been subsistence production to mechanical production and efficiency through irrigation. And so that's how come we have the one village, one dam policy. We are looking seriously at value addition and processing to sort of trigger our industrial revolution. And manufacturing through the one district, one factory. We are looking to process our gold now. We are looking to also position Accra as a pharmaceutical hub for West Africa. And the senior minister gave a little glimpse about that. We're looking at adding value to our textiles industries. But interestingly, I mean, Ghana for over 200 years has been exporting cocoa and gold. But we have not yet been able to even produce one billionaire in any of these things. So the president, in giving us our marching orders, is looking for partnerships that can also grow local enterprise. And therefore, that is very important when we go on our investment drives, that we are just not looking for investors. We are looking for partnerships, sustainable partnerships. And I think the first place to look would be Great Britain, because we already have existing relationships. We have businesses, British businesses that have been in Ghana for over 100 years. And that is where that partnership should start. Tourism is also very important to us and is a priority investment area through ecotourism, cultural tourism, hospitality, etc., etc. There's a major project going on in Accra right now called the Accra Marina Project, for which we are looking for investors. It stretches along the whole of Accra, but is integral to the 540 kilometers of beach fronts that we have, and that's another major investment we are looking for. On the ICT side, let me just quickly run through. Like I said, Ghana is sort of taking the lead. Current mobile penetration is 138%, and because of that, we want to accelerate the government citizenry engagement from e-governance to m-governance, where a lot of the engagement will be on a digital platform. For example, we want to ensure that taxation, identification, etc. are all digital. And we are currently engaged in a program where we are mapping every square kilometer in the country digitally, which we believe will be very instrumental in land reforms. We are also building a national database where every citizen and everybody in Ghana will be biometrically registered to enable them engage better with government and with all the services that we have. We're going to focus on Internet of Things, IoT, and big data to enable us deliver services to the people. I also must say that fintech is one of the fast-growing areas in the technology space. And a couple of months back, the UK Chamber was kind enough to host a conference in the UK in the fintech space, and we met a lot of the operators who are very keen to come to Ghana. As you well know, we've recently become an oil and gas country, and we already have a British investor in there in the name of Tullow, but we are looking for more investors in the distribution side, and so we are also welcome to discuss that. We have on our map what the plan is, so when you have the presentation, you can go through yourself. Power and energy, like I did mention, is very critical for us to transform our economy. So the current generation is, in fact, this is a bit outdated because if we look at current generation out of installed capacity, we are somewhere around 4,000 kilowatts per hour with a peak demand of 2,200. But we have had problems with distribution. So that is where the real opportunity is, in the distribution space. But coming here, and we do have a Minister of Energy here, he has clearly indicated that any new contracts will be in the renewable, sustainable area. And looking at pricing, a favorable pricing, offtake pricing, anything between 8 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you're in that space, you can raise your hand so I see you. Infrastructure and real estate. Like I did indicate, railway has become very important, and the integrated transport networks are going to be very critical in opening up the country because of the one district, one factory. Access to markets and access to products will be important. So we are looking at a big road and railway infrastructure uptake. And so we're looking at that. We have mentioned housing, where there's a big deficit. Now these two maps show what the opportunity is with the road development network projected and the railway networks projected. And so you can have a look at it. I did say that we're repositioning Ghana as the infrastructure, commercial, transportation, and tourism hub for West Africa. And we are currently engaging on getting all the templates and the plans executed. Because we are an agricultural nation, of course, agriculture is important to us. And I have already mentioned agricultural mechanization and a new flagship policy that came into place, planting for food and jobs, which we believe will create jobs for our people, create employment nationwide, but also create a pipeline for raw materials for industrial development. Some of our value chain opportunities we found in rice, tomatoes, poultry, sugar, cassava, and ethanol. Believe it or not, Ghana being an agricultural nation, we still import $2.2 billion of food a year. And that just tells you there's a great opportunity for people in the agricultural sector to invest in Ghana. The story is that truly we are open for business. We are ready to engage, and I'll be here to answer any questions. We are engaged in significant reforms that will make investments quicker and easier and create sustainable partnerships. So I'll sit down and then you can ask all the questions that you want. Thank you very much.